Throughout history, freethinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizvi and Armin Navabi.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. My name is Ali Rizvi, and with me, as always, almost always, is Armin Navabi. Armin, welcome. I mean, hi, not welcome.
Hi,
welcome. Yeah, there you
okay.
go.
Hi.
The person that I am going to welcome today is David Silverman. David Silverman is returning to Secular Jihadists today. David, welcome back to the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, Ali. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's good to see you looking fresh and you look great. You've got, and there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, I'm feeling much better.
Yeah. So David is the newly appointed executive director of Atheist Alliance International, which is a fantastic organization. And he's also the former president of American Atheists, as many of you know. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about all of your new plans, the future. You know, there's so many things to talk about. But obviously, before, I wanted to get the elephant in the room, out of the way first. So David is fresh back from, there were sexual abuse allegations against him in the past, and there was a big controversy. And David is now suing the people who made the allegations and his older organization to try and get that settled. Armin did an interview with David on the Atheist Republic podcast that was pretty extensive, where they talked about it in a lot of detail. And David made his case, and I think everybody who wants to know more about it should go and listen to it. I watched it. I was actually very moved by the interview, and I just want to say at the outset, Dave, is that I'm not team this or team that guy. I just believe in the notion of skepticism. That's what we're all about.
And that's where you should be. We should all be team skepticism.
Team
right?
skepticism.
And that's what didn't happen with American Atheists. There was no skepticism. That was such a disappointing thing. But you know what, Ali and Armin, I'm just so happy to be here. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Answer all the questions that you want about it. I did get into maybe a little too much detail on Armin's podcast, but I got to tell you, I went on that podcast. That was the first podcast that I'd been on, and it was exhausting. It was exhausting. And I mean, I've done a lot of podcasts. And I've done longer podcasts. It wasn't about the length of the podcast, and it wasn't because Armin kept grilling me, although he did righteously corner me about feminism. But it wasn't, and that wasn't cool, Armin. But it was cool, though. But I don't like being logically bested, but that's okay. But I mean, I went on that show, and I had been so 2012. Basically, a 22-year-old groupie woman came on to me for a long time, all during the day. I played with her at night. She retroactively, 7 years later, decided she was too drunk to consent, and that she felt like I would use my power against her if she didn't have sex with me. Which both of those are just, I'm sorry, they're both bullshit. And then the second woman was Beth Presswood, Matt Dillahunty's wife. We had a long engagement together over the course of hours, multiple eyewitnesses, and she turned around the next morning and said that I had attacked her and gave a completely fictitious account of what happened. Not something where people could get confused. It's not something where there's a perception difference and she remembers it differently. She lied in a great big fat huge way. And they both reported to BuzzFeed. I'll just make the story real short. When the BuzzFeed article went in front of the board canned me with no skepticism and no due process. I had been in the movement for 22 years, and they just booted me. And they never asked me if I did it. They never asked me for a comment. They never told me what the allegations were. They never considered that I might be innocent. They heard the allegations and they booted my ass to the curb. And then
you did a lot for that organization, didn't you?
I made that organization. I'm sorry. I did a lot for that organization. Okay. I came into that organization and it was insignificant and almost broke. And I left that organization with $3 million in assets. And at the top of the line, top of the movement, the leader of the sword. Of course, they've given up that now. But I mean, I created the Reason Rally. I had the largest atheist events. The Reason Rally was the largest atheist event in world history. And every convention, all those billboards, all those appearances on Fox News. I made a lot for that company.
Hugh Laurie.
I got Hugh Laurie. Yeah, that last convention was an 850, no kidding, 850 person convention that grossed over $170,000. Yeah. I mean, that's a good convention. So yeah, I did very, very well for American Atheists, which is why Atheist Alliance International hired me. And it was heartbreaking. That's really way too soft of a word. When everything went down, I came off of that Hugh Laurie convention really high, and then all this came in, and they walked me out of my office like a criminal with a box in my hand, and they didn't tell me why, and I didn't know why because I actually hadn't done what the accusations are. And just for everybody to know, all the evidence that I have, they don't just fail to prove me guilty. I succeed in proving the accusers as liars. I succeed. I have pictures. I have eyewitnesses. I have recordings. And I have it all documented on my website, which is firebrandforgood.com. If you go to firebrandforgood.com, you can see all of this and you can hear the recordings and you can see my point of view. And by and large, the vast, vast majority of the people who watch Armin's video and look at the evidence, the objective evidence that I have, easily conclude how bad the lies were and that I was really, really wrong.
Yeah, I think that, so, the way that I see it, and again, I told you, I watched the video, I heard your point of view. I'm going to say something over here that I haven't really talked about that much before, is that I was married before. My ex-wife, actually, when I got together with my wife right now, Alishba, she sent her note about how I had abused her, somewhat like physical abuse. It obviously was bullshit. It was shown to be bullshit. There were no charges, nothing like that. But there was so I know that the rate of false accusations is very low, right? And I know that they do happen. And I understand that with everything that's going on with the Me Too movement, which I support, there is collateral damage. But that doesn't mean accepting the fact that there will be some collateral damage doesn't mean we turn a blind eye to it. Because if we don't address the problems and the false accusations, even if they're a small number, a small percentage, if we don't address them, then we're discrediting the entire movement, which
skepticism.
I still support. Skepticism is the thing. And here's the thing, like I don't, obviously I haven't seen the evidence, Dave, but I just assume I give you the benefit of the doubt. I heard what you said. You sounded sincere. I would give the benefit of the doubt to the accuser as well. And I would assume that they're, like, from my point of view, because I don't know the situation, like normally in any situation like that, this is what skepticism is. You give everybody the benefit of the doubt and you let the evidence come out. And this is what the atheist movement is about. It's about believing with evidence. If there isn't...
No, it's not about that, but that's another movement, which is another good movement, but it's not that's not the atheist movement. That's the skeptic movement.
Yeah, the skeptic movement.
Which is also a good. Yeah, which is also a good movement.
You're right.
I'm really sorry you went through that. I know your pain, and I know what it's like when somebody says something bad about you that isn't true, but everybody believes it. I know how that feels, and it is debilitating.
Yeah,
debilitating. And I want to tell you one thing before we get off the subject, because I want to make sure that, because you said skepticism and we have data. People say that the rates of false allegations are really low. Some people say it's 2%. And I want to make sure that everybody knows where that data comes from. The report was about false police reports.
Right.
Okay. And it was 2 to 10%. But they were false police reports. The barrier to make a false police report, to sit in front of a cop and say, and while he's doing, oh, really, that happened? Oh, really, that happened? That's much harder than writing your girlfriend a note or writing an anonymous note to BuzzFeed.
Or posting it online, yeah.
There is no data that I've found that says that the just women throwing shit out, not actually going to the... See, I am not afraid at all of saying... Because I am not afraid at all of the two women who made false allegations against me going to the cops. I'm not afraid at all. I dare them, but they won't. Because going in front of a cop and making a false allegation report, when they're sitting in front of you, when you're talking to somebody who's skeptical, is hard. Right. The people who do that and are false, they're hardcore. They're hardcore liars. They're risking jail time to do that. I don't think either of my accusers is going to risk jail time to do that. But my point is that the idea that this number of false allegations being the bottom of the false police reports group is wrong.
Okay, I need to push back on that a little bit because I think the argument that is being made here, I don't know by you, but by other people, is that if the percentage is higher, that means we need more skepticism. That's not, I don't think that's the percentage matters. Even if the number is half of 1%, even if the percentage of the false, even if the percentage of the false allegation is 1/10 of 1%, that means that you don't believe it without evidence. That still does mean you don't believe it without evidence. It doesn't matter if it's 2%, 10%, 1%,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
I agree. But I want people to understand that when people throw out those numbers, when people throw out the 2%, because they throw it out at me all the time, but neither of these women have or will file their police reports. So we're not talking 2 to 10. We're not talking about anything that has that kind of an obstacle to overcome. And we're not talking about anybody who experienced any costs. Rose St. Clair, she's doing just fine. I don't think she got any grief. And good old Beth Presswood did it anonymously. Mm-hmm. So she didn't get any grief until Manette Richards outed her. She didn't get anything. So there was no cost for either of these women, and there were no obstacles. And in that situation, we don't really have data. But I will tell you, I have heard a lot of stories like yours, Ali. A lot. In the past couple of weeks, in the past couple of months, I've heard a lot of stories about...
I know many people who've been... And the consequences actually, for me in that case, it wasn't just a matter of... It was just a matter of, okay, this is going to die down after a while. That's okay. But I was working as a physician. I could have lost my medical license. There are a lot of really serious consequences to things like that. So... fortunately,
it's a shitty thing to do.
Can I just point out that the point of this, but the importance of not believing without evidence is not just for the sake of the men that are being falsely accused, but it's also for the sake of the real victims of rape, right? Because even if it's a very small percentage, these small percentage of false accusations, if they are believed and then proven false, they are going to really hurt the cases of the majority of women with real allegations. So it's not just for the sake of the men, but also with actually this is not a men or women issue because men are also victims of rape, right? It's not just for the sake of the people
and
that
men also falsely accuse women. It's not that men don't lie either.
Exactly.
This is not a men or women thing.
So I shouldn't say men or women. I should say it's not just for the sake of the people that are being falsely accused. It's also for the sake of real victims that we need to be skeptical.
And because of that, I'm going to take it another step, Armin, because these women who are making false allegations are doing it on the backs of the victims. That means the future victims. Okay, the reason I got fired is because Believe All Women, they used Believe All Women to take me down without due process. Now, what the result of that is is that I got to come on your show and defend the whole concept of false rape allegations, false sexual assault allegations, and that is going to make it harder for the next people. So we have to make it socially repugnant for women to do this. We have to make this a disgusting thing for women to do. This isn't something that you just brush off and for anybody to do.
Yeah,
but for
women.
anyone to do, but because rape is so women centric, we have to talk about this. We have to make it. It's awful for anyone to do this, and it should be seen that way. And when somebody is outed at having made a false rape allegation, especially when it's a woman, that woman deserves some serious shit from her community.
Wait,
that woman. Well, because. Okay, you're right. There's no really because of. All right, I'll give you that. But anybody, okay. I mean, it just feels like I should be saying that because I feel like it's more of a betrayal when a woman does it to her gender than if a man does it. I think if a man does it, it's more negative, and if a woman does it, it's more betrayal to her gender. But you know, it's just in my head. We can logic through that. But my point is that these people who did this to me, they do not deserve to be coddled by their feminist friends. They deserve to be shunned by their feminist friends for using feminism for their personal gain. They deserve to be known by their feminist friends as an outcast who abused feminism. This is abuse. This isn't feminism. This is abuse. It's not right.
I think I read in one of your recent posts that you are you reconsidering calling yourself a feminist? Was that something? Why?
It is. It's happening. Look, I've been a feminist for 30 years, and I haven't changed. Okay? I believe in equal work for equal pay, equality of the sexes, equal opportunity for everyone. But feminism kind of changed underneath me. I'm calling myself a feminism, but I'm talking about second wave feminism. I'm not talking about believe all women. I'm not talking about cancel culture. I'm not talking about this horrible wokeness, this poison where you can't be ever forgiven if you do anything wrong retroactively. This is not feminism. What Rose and Beth did to me was not feminism, not in my book.
So if you're saying it's not feminism, so if it's not feminism, then why not keep? Why not saying
because they own feminism? Because they own feminism now.
I don't think. Do they? Because I think they just allowed. I think most feminists. I don't think they are. Most feminists do not think like this. Most feminists are not this woke, outrage, PC kind of anti. Man, I think I think more. I think the feminists that are getting the most attention. The problem is that the feminists that are like the feminazis and stuff, they're more interesting, so they get more coverage, and also they're the loudest.
Down, dude. They swatted me down.
I know, but should we give up the label because of these loud minority?
I think you know what it is, Armin. Sorry to interrupt. Because the thing is, everybody has an association with their personal experience. For example, for Armin and me, when we're thinking of feminists, we're thinking of a lot of the women that we know in the ex-Muslim movement, for instance, or women who came out of the Muslim world and they're fighting against, forced compulsory covering, like the headscarf and all that. They're fighting against FGM.
Also in the West, the history of feminism for so many years has been a lot of achievements, and now we're talking about 10 years of toxic wokeness, and are we going to really get rid of the label that has? I mean, some people don't like labels. I love labels because labels are a great way to. It's like a flag that you unite under. I don't understand why people hate labels.
I can't unite under feminism, Armin. I can't unite under feminism anymore. Come on, look at what they did to me. A lot of them, not one or two.
But you just said that that's not feminism. So by saying that's
not my feminism.
Okay, so there is. So that by saying it's not your feminism, you're acknowledging that there's a brand of feminism that you're okay with.
Second wave feminism.
There you go.
Right, so there you go. That's feminism, though.
I think that Dave. I think like the good thing, what I'm seeing over here, and I think this is healthy. And this is what I think. I think that I've always said, if there is take all accusations seriously, but hear out the person who is being accused, hear them both out. Okay,
Yeah.
Assume that both of them are acting in good faith until or unless there is evidence to prove otherwise when it comes to one of them, and that's it. This is why
You don't
this
even
whole
need to assume
thing
they're acting. You don't even need to assume that they're acting in good faith.
No,
You
I
just
think
need to
that
take
I
it
think
serious. You just
no,
need to take it serious.
by good faith I mean that the whole innocence until proven guilty thing. I think
And
that's
when
fine to do
That's a
that
court
unless
of
there's
and when
law.
their bad faith is proven with evidence like mine, I think they should be judged by their community.
yeah.
I think I have a real problem with. I mean, let's look at the feminists that are out there now. Look at the hate that I'm getting. I want to make this real clear, okay? This is a religion, okay? Wokeness is a religion, and I think it's a dogma. It's a religion. It's certainly
not a religion because it doesn't have supernatural elements. So
Armin, we know what David.
yeah.
So
you know what I'm saying, okay? We all know what I'm saying.
I'm very
Armin
picky
is
about
like
the
a
way.
linguistic fetishist.
Okay, so let me give you a quote. Remember Stephen Weinberg? Stephen
Yes.
Weinberg said, with or without religion, good people can behave well and bad people can do evil. But for good people to do evil, that takes religion.
Right.
Okay? Look at what's happened to me. I have become a great Satan in the atheist movement. Not to the people who look at the data. To the people who look at the evidence and actually apply skepticism, I'm Dave, an innocent man who was falsely accused, and it's pretty obvious. But there's a section of people who will not look at the data because of their dogma. They will not accept the fact that women can lie. They took that police report, 2 to 10%, that means 2%, and the police reports are equal to just anonymous accusations to BuzzFeed. So David's lying, and we're not even going to look at the evidence. We're not going to look at the eyewitnesses. We're not going to look at the pictures. We're not going to listen to the recordings. We're not going to look at the polygraph test. We're just going to say Dave's guilty. Now, here's the thing. I work for Atheist Alliance International. Now, when I saw you, Armin, I was coming out of being a destroyed man. I was devastated by what happened. These words that I'm using, destroyed, devastated, they are understatements. The words are understatements. I don't have good words to convey what I was. And now that I work for Atheist Alliance International, who saw the evidence, the board of directors of AAI looked at all the evidence, men and women, and they unanimously saw, like most everybody is seeing, that it was a lie. So they hired me because they hired me. Here's the thing. Manette Richards over at Secular Woman. Is that her name, Richards? Manette over at Secular Woman. They are doing something amazing right now. They are trying to go to the AAI UN seat. They are actually launching some sort of an attack. We don't quite know the details on the UN seat. So we're going to use that UN seat to save lives. Okay? We're going to use that UN seat to promote getting ex-Muslims out of countries. Okay? We're going to save actual human beings with the help of that UN seat. But Secular Woman, in order to punish AAI for hiring me after looking at the data and determining that I was actually falsely accused, which I was, they're actually doing things that are going to hurt humans just to punish AAI for hiring me. They want me fired a second time. It's pretty fucking evil. It's pretty fucking evil. And that's why I'm looking at religion as wokeism. Wokeism as religion, and that's why I'm not calling myself a feminist anymore, because what the fuck is that? That's the feminist organization in the atheist movement, and they're going to take action which could cause people to die because they don't like the fact that 95% of the population looked at the data and concluded I was innocent, which, by the way, I am. And they're going to hurt people. This is the woke religion. This Manette is not an evil person, and she's not a stupid person. Okay, these are victims of a religion. They are not looking at the data for the same reason a Christian will not read the God Delusion. They are not allowing me to present my case for the same reason the God hates fags people won't listen to reason on the. This is religion. And, and this is today's feminism, and I'm not going to fucking be a part of it.
Well, there's
Ali, because when I was trying to defend the label feminism before you change the subject, one similar thing that has happened, that a lot of similar label that some people have given rid of, like they're given up on, was liberal, right? And a lot of people that I know are not comfortable with the word liberal because of the woke culture or the PC culture or whatever you want to call it. And some people even they say oh, I'm not liberal anymore. I'm a classical liberal. And I'm no, fuck that. I'm a liberal. Okay. I'm not just going to give up this label liberal just because of a few minority loud woke people
about a third.
Well, I mean, I'm going to fight for that label. I'm going to reclaim it. I'm going to fight for it. These people
I got to fight you back on this, Armin. The purpose of a label is to identify yourself. And if you wish to identify yourself, you don't want to hold on to a label like I'm not holding on to feminist if it's going to commonly associate you wrongly. That's why I don't want to call myself a feminist.
We reclaimed atheists, for example.
We took atheist, but nobody else was taking it.
No, we all the heathen, heretic, infidel, atheist, we reclaimed those words. Those were negative words, and we managed to wear it with pride.
I understand, and I grant that, but feminism beat us. Okay, wokeness beat us. It's too big to fight now. It's not about atheism anymore. It's about the fact that feminism, the word has been co-opted in the general public. Liberal has been co-opted in the general public. That's why I use classic liberal when I talk about myself, which is because I haven't changed any of my views, although some people are calling me alt-right now because I use the word classic liberal.
But it's not just a label. By letting these minority loud people come and take over these labels, we're basically handing them over the movement.
They already took it.
I want to take it back. I want to take back feminism. Yeah. I want to take up liberal. I'm like, no, we're not going to leave feminism. We're going to kick you out of feminism. We're not going to leave being liberal. We're going to kick you out of because you're not liberal. I'm not a classical liberal. I'm a fucking liberal. And these idiots these people that are pretending to be liberals, they need to leave liberalism. I'm not going to leave liberalism.
I love you, man. You're awesome.
This is like I'm surrounded by this Firebrand thing, and I absolutely love it.
I want to give you a hug right now, man. And you're right. And we should take back feminism, and we should take back liberalism. But in the meantime, we're fighting a losing battle if we're associating ourselves with them. If we're saying that I'm a feminist, and we're damaging ourselves by calling them that, and we're damaging our ability to fix things if I'm calling them that. If somebody likes me, I don't want to call myself a liberal because I don't want to be confused. I don't want to give legitimacy to those assholes. I want to give legitimacy to the people who I'm like, the classic liberals. And I need that qualifier in there because I want specifically not legitimize the woke. That's my point. And that's why I don't call myself a feminist anymore. I don't want to legitimize feminism by being associated with the woke feminists. If I'm going to identify myself as a feminist, which I am, I'm going to identify myself as the right kind of feminist, a second wave feminist, the good kind of feminist, the skeptical kind of feminist, the humanistic kind of feminist.
Which are most feminist.
So speaking of legitimacy, just a couple of things that I wanted to say is for a long time, people were saying that if you're falsely accused, why aren't you pressing charges? Why aren't you taking people to court? And now that you are, they're blaming you for that. So this is one of the problems with the whole woke culture. So to me, the fact that between hearing your interview with Armin and between and the fact that you're actually taking action and doing something about it, I think that's admirable, and I think that gives you some legitimacy.
When is that happening?
And respect, at least my eyes. I sorry, before you answer that, I also want to mention for the audience that in addition to the interview that you did with Armin, we're also linking in the description to the statement, the Atheist Alliance International statement that Gail Miller, who's the president of Atheist Alliance International, who you support, who you report to.
I love Gail, by the way. She's great.
Gail's great.
Yeah. And so she has. They've written a pretty comprehensive statement about what they did and the process they went through and how they investigated the allegations against you for months. And right, and so she's quite a lengthy note, but it's absolutely worth reading, because I think that is a true representation of the kind of skepticism that we should use whenever we go into these situations.
And I might say that's a very ballsy move by AAI, because, and I hope that they get, I know a lot of, they're going to lose some people, but I also hope that they're going to be noticed by people that didn't even know AAI is a thing.
Yeah.
Because, but people have to realize, and I hope that more people now go support Atheist Alliance International because of this, because we need organization that doesn't bend over when the mob wants something, that they like, and you know, the whole point of the atheist movement, again, we talked about the skeptic movement, but in my opinion, the main point of the atheist movement is not promotion of atheism. That's secondary. The main point of the atheist movement is to support and protect atheists, right? And we failed that when it came to Dave. We didn't protect him when it came to false allegations, right? So when an organization comes and says like, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to bend the knee to the mob. We're not going to just, we're going to resist when there's no evidence. This is a person that has been wronged, and we're going to accept him in our organization. I hope that, given that you see all these organizations that didn't do this, when you find one that does follow these standards that we want to promote, you go ahead and you support them. And I'm hoping that a lot of new people are now finding AAI and supporting AAI, and the people that are going to join AAI is going to outweigh people that will abandon AAI because of this, right? I think this is something that people constantly need to remind, that this is if you're looking for an organization that didn't give in to mob mentality, this is the one, and this is the one that deserves your support.
Yeah. One last question before we move on to the rest of this, Dave, is that I think this is something I've heard from people, and this is something that's in a lot of people's minds that they're confused about. There are people who want to, number one, support Atheist Alliance International and support American Atheists who are not obviously as involved in the situations you are. In the same way, there are people who are fans of Matt Dillahunty, right, including us, and we've had him at the podcast. I mean, obviously, he has loads of fans, and he's done a lot for the community. And there are also people, the same people who also give you the benefit of the doubt, and they believe you, and they believe what you say. What do you say to people like that? I mean, what do you think?
The fans of Matt Dillahunty?
Fans of Matt Dillahunty, people who want to keep it together. They want to support both American Atheists and Atheist Alliance International. They want to continue to keep following Matt, and also continue to follow you.
Well, I am placing absolutely no restrictions on anything. I know Matt is going around telling people that if you work with me at all, you can't be his friend anymore. I'm not doing that. I think that you should, and everybody should, look at the results of the organization. Look at what they're doing. Look at the leadership of the organizations. What are they doing? Are they saving lives, or are they doing surveys? You can figure out where they're going to go, and you should judge them on how much money they have, how many employees they have, and how much they're getting done. How efficient is their action? And make your decisions. I think it is wrong, very wrong, for Matt to be calling people and saying, like he did to Armin, and like he's done to several other people who have told me, that he believes Beth without question, despite the fact that I have eyewitnesses in writing, written statements by eyewitnesses, folks, written statements by eyewitnesses that Beth Presswood lied. But Matt is not looking at that or caring about that, because wokeism is a religion. So he's not even seeing it. Matt Dillahunty is in this religion, and he's a good guy. He's a smart guy. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm saying he's infected. I'm saying he's religious. I'm saying he's.
Just to be clear, I didn't tell you that Matt told me that. You just guessed it. Okay, just to be clear.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, the larger point,
you guessed it, and I didn't deny it, but I don't reveal private messages.
Oh, I'm sorry, but it was bullshit. If he did that, it's bullshit. This isn't grade school. We're trying to, I'm an activist, okay? I'm trying to get shit done. I'm trying to save some lives and make the world a better place. That's what I do. I don't do this kindergarten shit. I remember telling a friend that he couldn't be my friend if he was somebody else's friend in 3rd grade. I remember that. I remember that scene out of my history in 3rd grade. And this is just not a thing. It's not so bad that anyone filed a police report, but it's so bad that Matt Dillahunty will never talk to you again if you have me on your podcast or do something with me. It's just not seemly. It needs to stop. Matt needs to see what he's doing. He's doing harm.
To be fair, though, I don't know if I would be able to be very. I mean, if it was my wife, I don't know if I would be able to be this logical or think straight. Okay.
Well, fine. But it's been a year. It's been a couple of years now. It's been a year and a half. And by the way, it's been 4 years since he found out about it. 2 years since he told me everything was okay. I'll get that timeline to you again. 4 years since it happened. 2 years since Matt told me we were fine on recording on firebrandforgood.com. He said we were fine, that it was water under the bridge. Don't sweat the small stuff. 2 years ago, which was 2 years after the event. And now he's so mad. Now he's so mad. See, this is kind of bullshit. Okay.
But here's another thing to just let's see if it could be fair to Matt. People might say, like, look, Matt can't speak right now because of the lawsuit, and now we're only hearing one side of the story, and Matt can't come out and say anything right now because he is talking to people, telling them I assaulted his wife, and saying now he can't. Now that you're coming
he did it to another friend of mine yesterday, 2 days ago. Another friend of mine called me up and said that Matt had called her and told her it's me or Dave because Dave's bad. And she's like, evidence. And he unfriended her. This happened 2 days ago. There's just no need for this shit.
But in this scenario that you mentioned, he's not able to say why because of the lawsuit. He can't explain his position right now.
That's complete. Right? That might hold water if 2 years ago everything wasn't fine. If 2 years ago he didn't allow me to become president of the organization. If 2 years ago, this is a 4 year ago event. 2 years ago, he told me in a private conversation on recording that all was well. And that same year, he did stop me from being elected to the presidency of American Atheists. Armin, you're married, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say I sexually assaulted your wife. Okay? I sexually assaulted your wife. I gave her black and blue marks on her breasts. And she comes to you the next morning and she says, Dave Silverman assaulted me sexually. And you just think about that for a second, okay? And 2 years later, I get you in a room and I say, hey, Armin, how are you and me man to man? What you gonna say, Armin?
I'm not gonna respond.
Well, I think that you would say something that I think it would be a pretty fucking yeah. That's how anyone, I believe, would react. That's how most people would react. I mean, come on, Ali, are you married?
Yeah.
I don't want to play the alpha male. I know, like, some people would be like, "Oh, I would punch you in the face." I don't want to play that alpha male bullshit.
So let me ask you a different question. Okay.
I don't want to play.
I think you made your point in a really that makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah. Now let's ask you a different question.
I just think it's. I mean, I agree with you. If that's happening, I know that you're not telling anybody who is a fan of Matt to not listen to him or whatever. If there
is a small chance, but my point is that I can't think of an explanation for why somebody would come and say, "Oh, what would be cool," right? But if there is an explanation, if there's the 1% chance for why there's an explanation, Matt is not going to be able to give the explanation. That's what I'm saying right now.
If Matt, I don't believe Matt believes what he believes, what he says he believes. Okay, this is my point. Okay. He didn't relearn that I sexually assaulted his wife after 2 years ago. He didn't re-figure that out. He didn't learn anything new. And he's really, really mad now. But 2 years ago, he was fine. Okay. 2 years ago, he was fine. He said, and he was in my office in a power position. He was my boss, remember. He was a board member. He was my boss, checking in on me. And he said, you know what? I got a problem with you doing this. I got a problem with you doing this. But I said, hey, but how are you and me personally? And he said, we're good. We're good. Okay. He said, it's water under the bridge. Don't sweat the small stuff. You know what?
You were recording that? You were recording?
Okay. Yeah. You know why I was recording that? Because there were some people on the American Atheist board which were a little loopy. And they were there to make sure, Matt was in my office to make sure I wasn't destroying books in the library.
Is legal in the States to record?
Because in New Jersey, it's illegal to record one party.
Yeah. Okay. Same in Canada. I know in the United States it's different from state to state, but in all of Canada it's legal as long as you're part of the conversation.
But either way, it's out there, and I think that.
No, just one last question. With regards to the lawsuit, when is it happening, and what are the chances of you winning?
Oh, I think I'm going to win. I think if you look at the evidence that I have and the evidence that I don't put out, I think the evidence that Rose St. Clair and Beth Presswood lied is overwhelming. I think that the evidence that, well, let's just leave it at that. Okay. I really shouldn't talk about it, but I will say
when is this?
We don't know. We don't have any dates yet. It's still in the early stages.
Okay. Okay.
It's still
all right. Let's move on to.
Okay, that's great. And well, hey, David, thank you for clearing that up. I again want to say for people who are hearing this and they don't, they want to know more about the context. Look in the description for Armin's conversation with Dave, where he talked about it in detail, and also look at Gail Miller's statement she's the president of Atheist Alliance International, and she's posted a note on Facebook talking about Dave's hiring. But either way, Dave, now you're the executive director of Atheist Alliance International. Welcome back.
Yes, I am. Thank you so freaking much.
Yeah, thank you. And I am, you're as firebrand about this as you are about anything else. And it's, I've kind of missed it. I feel like there's that element really, really missing nowadays. So I think it's going to be fantastic. What are so you joined, you're with them. How has it been so far? And what do you plan to do now with AAI that has been different from the past?
Wow. Well, it's I got to tell you, it's night and day from my past. Dealing with a board of directors of professionals and skeptics, it's a completely different thing. These people are dedicated. They're involved. It's not a situation where, like at American Atheists, most of the board did not have any sort of day-to-day operations, day-to-day involvement in the organization. They were just kind of, amorphous out there. But these board members are actually doing things. They're involved in the organization. They love the organization, and they want to save lives. They want to win for skepticism, and they want to save lives. And so they've got programs. We've got programs now, including Project Outreach, which rescues ex-Muslims from bad situations. We're working on over 50 applications right now. We need money to help them. Please donate money to Project Outreach at atheistalliance.org. But we are going to save lives with this program. We have we're an NGO at a non-government organization in the UN with the economic and social class. I forgot the words, but we're an NGO at the UN, and we're going to use our place in the UN to publicize what we're doing to save ex-Muslims and to save ex-Christians in countries like Uganda.
Right.
We're going to be, Uganda is trying to repass the kill the gays law.
Death penalty for homosexuality.
Because praise Jesus. Yeah, because praise Jesus. We're going to be highlighting that. We're going to be pushing that. We have, of course, Secular World Magazine, but which has been published continuously for 28 years. Atheist Alliance International has been around for 28 years. And they've done some fantastic things. We also have our major push, which is something very, very close to my heart, which is the right to be secular, which is a campaign that we're also going to push up to the UN to try and get actual, literal equal rights for atheists to be endorsed from the UN. This is a project that is near and dear to my heart, even though I just came on as executive director. It is a fantastic effort to try and get as many signatories as many organizations on board so that we can use our UN seat. We want to leverage our UN seat as much as possible. So we're going to leverage our UN seat to get in the declaration, to get the right to be secular included in the Declaration of Human Rights. And we're going to use it to promote our project outreach to get ex-Muslims and ex-atheists out from dangerous places. We also have a library to go. I'm sorry,
atheists.
Atheists, not ex-Christians, ex-Muslims, ex-Christians.
Right.
We also have a library. How do I want to say this? We have a library program that gets books into places where those books are not available or needed. So we can actually help you to create a library in some place where there are no books so people can read. It's all about getting out information, and this is all being done. It's all being done with volunteers. I'm the only paid employee, and I'm paid very little. And so when I say please donate to Atheist Alliance, you're not paying for lots of employees. You're not paying for fluff. You're buying activism that we're going to use with our volunteers to turn around and bring people out of dangerous situations, to turn around and get the UN to recognize atheists on an official level. This is good stuff. I love this stuff. Okay, I love the meat of these programs, and I love the fact that AAI is staffed with volunteers. Yes, when we have more money in the banks, we're going to hire employees. But right now, just thinking of the amount of return on your investment for your donation dollar. I mean, if we get more money into project outreach, we're going to rescue more human beings. Okay, unless of course Manette at Secular Woman has something to say about it. But I mean, we're going to save human beings. We're going to rescue people. We're going to make the world a better place at the UN. This is something that, the mission from the change from American Atheists is huge. I mean, it's the change in the mission. It's really something I can sink my teeth into. It's really something that needs a Firebrand Atheist organization. And what I want to do with it is I want to use our member states and create a powerhouse, create a Firebrand Atheist non-woke organization that will be international in scope and push Firebrand Atheism, also known as Firebrand Humanism, to where it is not right now. The IHEU is great, but they're not. The IHEU, otherwise known as the Humanists International, they're a great organization, but they don't really cater to atheists. They don't push atheism at all because they have religious organizations in their fold. We are a Firebrand Atheist International organization.
Wait, which organization? Sorry,
the IHEU. The
International Humanist and Ethical Union.
No, they rebranded themselves. That was a very bad name that they have, and
Humanist International.
Humanist International. Okay.
Yeah, but they're not dealing with atheists. They are. Some of them are atheists, but they're not an atheist organization.
Right.
Yeah, but they also helped the Atheist Republic. They brought our case to the United Nations when our consulate members in Malaysia was attacked by the government. They were the ones that brought our case to the United Nations Security Council. So we do owe them a lot for that.
I want to make sure that everybody understands that I fully support Humanist International. They're good folks. Okay. Yeah. They're good folks. They're getting good stuff done, but they don't cover everything. They don't do it all because they're soft. They can't be hard. Okay. And the world doesn't have a hard atheist organization. Doesn't have
dedicated and committed to the
Atheist Republic.
Well, yes, Atheist Republic. Yes, Atheist Republic.
So, right.
And you're damn right. And we're going to work together, my friend.
I really hope so, because one thing I told Gail, because when she was considering bringing you on, I told Gail, like, if you do bring Dave on, I can assure you that Atheist Republic would be very, very interested in working closely with AAI. She got a little bit, she was like, wait, why can't you just work with us regardless? Which is true. But I also had like, well, yeah, I mean, the like AAI didn't have that, kicking ass and, firebrand mentality. And now I think with you, they do have that. And I think like, we did want to work with AAI before, but now we're very excited to work with AAI. And I'm hoping that it's not just like, hey, we'll sometimes work with each other. I really hope that we can come up with projects that Atheist Republic and AAI are working with each other very closely, if you're interested in that.
I would love that to happen, Armin, and I would love to work with you personally and closely. I think we could kick ass together. I think you and I make a real good team. Frankly.
Great. Yeah. I have some ideas that I could discuss with you on a private call or something.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, I am.
So, for the public call, so I wanted to ask what I love about Atheist Alliance International, and you're making such a good case for donating. I mean, this is totally I'm already on board with this. But so I like the international part. And I'll tell you why. There was and this is something that has been, we were talking about the whole liberal, classic liberal. I still prefer the term liberal, like Armin, but there's when I noticed since Trump got elected, right? A lot of mainstream atheist organizations. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but at least some of them that I interacted with, they seem to shy away from ex-Muslims. So they had ex-Christians, ex-Mormons. Ex-Scientologists, ex-Jews, like secular Jews, people who escaped the Hasidic Jewish, they had all of that, but they just did not want to associate themselves with ex-Muslims because they don't want to be lumped in with the whole, Trump is targeting Muslims and we don't want to be seen that way, which I think is terrible because when you don't do that and you're discriminating against humanists and liberals from Muslim backgrounds, which is
is abandoning.
You're abandoning.
Okay, the word is abandonment.
It's also
and it's disgusting.
It is. It's abandonment and it's also bigotry. When you're doing that, and then you are contributing to the void that all the the Trumpians and everything are filling. Right.
This is about wokeism too. This is about wokeism because wokeism says that Islam is a good religion. Wokeism says that we all have our place and Islam is good. Because Trump says Islam bad, wokeism insists Islam good. And because wokeism says Islam good, ex-Muslims disagree. Mm-hmm. So ex-Muslims are not really permitted to be part of woke culture by default because you're saying bad things about Islam. So the reason, and you're absolutely right, and it's something that really makes me unhappy on an ethical level, on a core humanist level, Ali. It is true that the atheist movement has completely abandoned the people who need us, who are ex-Muslims. The ex-Muslims, they're a very particular section of atheism. They need specific help. They have real cultural issues that need to be addressed.
Well, and life-threatening issues. I mean, they're one of the en masse. They are still at risk. I'm talking about we're here in North America, and it's actually it's unsafe for us here too. But especially in Muslim majority countries, I mean, these are people who Raif Badawi is still sitting in jail. I mean, he doesn't even say he's an atheist, right? Avijit Roy was hacked to death in Bangladesh. Mashal Khan in Pakistan was beaten to death in public view by 200 students on a university campus. I mean, these are the kinds of consequences that at least when I came here, I was hoping that, these atheist organizations would do that. To your credit, you had Muhammad Al-Qadra on at the last Atheist Con.
Even when I was most woke, I was not going to abandon the ex-Muslims. But as soon as I left, they did.
Right. So
yeah.
They also
had a couple of posts attacking people that attack Islam, which was like, what the hell happened to their organization?
I'm like, how is this happening? There was a HuffPost article, and I used to write for HuffPost, and they published a lot of my stuff that was actually critical of Islam. So, but there was an article that was talking about how Richard Dawkins and these guys are Islamophobic, whereas Richard Dawkins, he's only Islamophobic when he talks about Islam.
And American Atheists posted
Christianity and Judaism, he's perfect. He's just an atheist. He's a liberal.
Oh no, he didn't. He didn't say he was Islamophobic. Just he said that the article, if I remember correctly, if I think the article that you're talking about, it said that he was partially responsible for the shooting at the mosque in New Zealand. Remember, he was partially responsible because he contributed to this intolerance of the mosque. And so Richard fucking Dawkins and Sam fucking Harris were at fault for criticizing the religion. Guess who? According to wokeism. They said that.
It's bullshit.
Which American Atheist now endorses, right? Which is amazing.
But I've said this. I always give this analogy. I'm like, Noam Chomsky has been criticizing U.S. foreign policy for the longest time. Does that mean Noam Chomsky is responsible for attacks on U.S. civilians, terrorist attacks?
Of course, and a lot of terrorists read him. A lot of terrorists actually read his books, but we still don't blame him for that.
Owns his books, but that doesn't mean that. Yeah, it doesn't.
We don't want to blame him for that. Yeah, that's bullshit.
So there is no logic to this. There's just religion.
Can I give you the best example to counter this? I, in my opinion, the example I use is like Nazis used evolutionary theories to promote white supremacy and genocide of the Jews. That's the argument. They use Darwinism, right? They refer to Darwinism. Do we now say like evolutionary theory should not be taught in schools, or do we blame that for Nazis? We don't, because that's ridiculous, right?
You can't make it bad to criticize lies, okay? We can't make promoting truth a sin. If there's a lie out there, it is not ethical to protect it and say, okay, we're fine. Because if you do that, and let me make it very clear, if you say, I'm not going to criticize Islam because some Muslim might go after somebody, or because some other people might go after Muslims, you are yielding to terrorism. Yielding to terrorism, and the beneficiaries of your yielding to terrorism, the result of it is a dumbing down of society and a furthering a benefit of the very religion that is doing the harm, that is doing the terrorism. So it works, and so they'll do it more. You'll do it. It's a cycle that this is not news. Okay, this is not a news flash. If you yield to terrorism, you'll get more terrorism. And I have been saying this from the stage for 20 years. And I've been drawing Muhammad on my hand because of that point. Yeah, and they abandoned it.
Yeah, I want to give this example. After the Charlie Hebdo shooting in 2015. I wrote an article called "How Terrorism Wins," and Armin's got a copy out for. I mean, for those of you who are listening
you said
to
trying Muhammad. This is your
book is called "Fighting God."
And there's Muhammad. We're trying Muhammad when you signed this for me.
Well, yes, that's because we don't want to yield to the terrorism of "Thou shalt not draw Muhammad," because if you give that away, there's the next thing that's coming. And this is exactly the same thing. When you say, I'm not going to criticize Islam because people might do bad things, you are yielding to the people who do bad things.
Right. So, sorry, Armin, I just want to finish because this is an important point. So after the Charlie Hebdo shootings, a lot of these mainstream news organizations, they didn't publish the cartoons that were the reason that 15 people got shot in cold blood. And they didn't publish, they're just cartoons. And they didn't actually... Right, and they got criticized. Some of them reversed their policy, and this includes the BBC, the New York Times, and so on. And I was talking, terrorism is not about bombs and bodies. Terrorism is about fear. And if you think that you're curbing terrorism by not publishing these cartoons or not, allowing for criticism of the Islamic faith, then you are not curbing terrorism. You have already become a victim of it. You're already there. That is exactly how it works. So, and this is a problem. And I would venture to say, I would dare to say that I think that some of these atheist organizations I'd actually heard this from them, saying that we don't want to. We're a little concerned about our association with Trump. That is exactly what they want. That's what the Muslim Brotherhood wants. That's what all of these Islamic organizations want. So I really hope, if you're planning, I would assume that you're planning conventions, you're planning like more sort of cool events like we used to have before, a lot more. And in that,
they'll be international in flavor though.
That's great. Yeah. That's great.
But I mean, I think it's really important that what you just said, Ali, because it is the abandonment of the ex-Muslims by the atheist movement is exactly what the Muslim Brotherhood wants. I think we need to remember that. That's a very important point that you made. The atheist movement is helping the oppressors by ignoring the ex-Muslims. Yeah. And the reason that they're ignoring the ex-Muslims is because woke culture says Islam is good because brown people. So we can't talk bad about them. And because orange man bad. Trump says Islam bad. So that's bad. So everything Islam is good. And besides, they're brown. So they have high intersectionality. And if you talk bad against them, you're bad. And that's why woke culture doesn't like ex-Muslims. And that's why the atheist movement has abandoned, that's the correct word, abandoned the ex-Muslims to the benefit of the Muslim Brotherhood and the people like him.
Before Ali starts giving another essay, can I get a few words in?
That was a good fucking essay, Armin. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
No, but I get 1-2 sentences in, but Ali starts. It just
Armin, you have to listen to some of these episodes over again. We both do essays. I'm acknowledging it. You have to acknowledge it too.
No, but no.
And they're good. I like your essays. They're excellent diatribes.
No,
there's already factionism happening.
Okay, can I get a word in, please, Ali?
All right, go ahead. Please. Go ahead.
When it comes to the wokeism,
don't interrupt Armin. Yeah, just.
I knew you were gonna do that. You know that joke that you interrupt me right after you told me that you're not gonna interrupt me. That's
never
getting too old.
No, it's still so good.
I'm just waiting for.
I think it's really funny, Armin.
Okay, sure. Well, it's funny, but it's funny because it's not happening to you.
That's funny, it's Armin. That's right. Hey, Armin, go ahead. Go ahead.
You guys are mentioning that when people abandon when they don't talk about Islam, that's part of wokeism, but a more subtle version of wokeism is when people do talk about Islam and they always follow up, but that's all religion, and I hate that because they never say all religion when somebody attacks Christianity. Okay, they only say that's a more subtle version of it. They're like, yeah, Islam is bullshit, Islam is violent, Islam is crazy, just like all religions. Why do they have to add that all at the very end? When I attack Christianity, people don't always follow that with, well, that's true with all religions, right? So, sometimes we want to focus on Islam because Islam has unique problems, right? And Islam has unique. There's some nuance to it that doesn't.
We're from that background. We're from the Islamic background.
Too, and right? I always give this example, like if we have a fundraiser that is trying to fight cancer, right, for cancer research, if you go around this fundraiser like, hey, what about AIDS? AIDS is also bad. You're like, what the hell? Okay, yeah, AIDS is bad. We know AIDS is bad. This is a fundraiser about cancer. Okay. Go start your fundraiser about AIDS. Sometimes it makes sense to focus on all religions. Sometimes it makes sense to focus on all dogma. Sometimes it makes sense to focus on Hinduism or Christianity or Judaism. And sometimes it makes sense to focus on Islam. Okay, this is why I get when why black rights activists I get it when they say like all lives matter. Why they don't like that? I understand why they don't like that because I get that feeling. When somebody says, yeah, that's true, Armin, what you're saying about Islam, but all religions. I'm like, shut the fuck up, I'm talking about Islam right now. Right?
That's a really good analogy. That's a really good analogy. Yeah. And that's something that I hadn't noticed, and you're right. They hedge when they do that. And they hedge when they do that because they can't be even remotely viewed as Islamophobic.
Right, exactly. And
they're Islamophobic.
Islamophobic, yeah.
That's very good. I'm going to use that. Another point I want to say, I know you're not going to change this, but I'm going to make it. I'm going to promote this. I'm going to try to make this argument. I wish that the right to be secular. I wish it was the right to be atheist rather than secular.
It was right to be secular before I got here.
Yeah, I know. But I wish it was. I know it was not your wording, but I wish it was right to be atheist. And I also suggest that, You say Firebrand Atheism, you're also going to have Firebrand Humanism. I also suggest that not having Firebrand Humanism, to focus on Firebrand Atheism, because I can tell you one thing. People are not being constantly attacked or demonized or targeted for being secular or humanist. Okay? People are being attacked, killed, murdered, imprisoned for being atheist. We need to normalize atheism. That is the main target right now. The reason why I am a secularist, I am a humanist, I am a skeptic. But the reason why I don't wear those labels, even though I am those things, is because those labels are not demonized. It's the atheist label that is demonized.
Yeah.
And that's why I wear the atheist label, because that is what needs to be normalized.
I completely agree. The only reason I completely agree with everything that you just said, and I only call myself a humanist in a situation where I'm talking about what guides my behavior. Right. Like when I say that, Atheist Alliance International is going to be guided by Firebrand Humanism. We're here to do good. Okay. We're here to do good for atheists because we're atheists. Exactly. So yes, we are an atheist organization. We are not a humanist organization. However, I'm a humanist, and I think it's very important for me and important for all of us to understand that, whatever we do it with a mindset of kindness, with a mindset of compassion, right, with a mindset to do good and to make the world a better place.
The way I phrase it is that I wear my atheist label more than my humanist label because of my humanism, not because of my atheism. Yes. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I choose to wear my atheist label because of my humanism.
Yes.
Right.
I completely understand. That's why when I was at the Reason rally, I said it is more. It's the same thing. It's more humanistic to call yourself an atheist than it is to call yourself a humanist. Calling yourself an atheist is more humanistic than calling yourself a humanist. And it's the same. It's a very important point because you're a genius. You understand, Armin. But yeah, it's important to me that Atheist Alliance International is an atheist organization, but we have a humanist heart. Can we say that?
Right. Yeah, of course.
And that's what I like. We're trying to do good. We're going to save some lives. We're going to get some information to people. We're going to raise awareness on a global level. We're going to be a Firebrand Atheist organization, a Firebrand Atheist coalition, because we have a lot of member organizations, a lot of member states in a lot of different countries, and we're going to bring a lot more on. Atheist Alliance is an alliance. So we are an alliance of organizations as well. That's going to be growing in number, and we're going to be using our UN seat for that too. We're the only, and you'll like this a lot, Armin. I believe this is the case. I haven't absolutely proved this, but Atheist Alliance International is the only entity in the entire United Nations with the word atheist in the title.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. I believe that's the truth. Yeah. And so we're in there. We're going to be using that to promote atheism and Firebrand Atheism. I'm just so excited.
Next time they come for our members, next time one of our consulates groups gets attacked by the government, I'm going to come to you. I'm like, David, we need you need our help. They're coming after our members. They're arresting our members. We need help. Okay, that UN. Okay, good. Thank you.
So that actually contextualizes what you said earlier about Humanists International being like a great organization, but the fact that the focus is on atheism, the fact that this is the only organization with the word atheist in it that's actually dedicated to it, that makes a lot more sense. Now, you said that this is going to be like the kind of work that you did before, but with an international flavor. So I'm really curious as to what that means and what planning in terms of that, or whether you have anything sort of.
What do you mean as far as conventions are concerned?
Conventions, anything like that. So you've already talked about how you want to do actual work to get ex-Muslims and persecuted religious, non-religious people like ex-Christians and stuff out of places where they're being persecuted. And but by the way, ex-Christians, this is also a problem in Pakistan too. Pakistan has a horrible record with minorities. But In addition to that, in addition to what you've talked about, what are some of the other plans that you have for the U.S. and Canada and North America, Europe?
Well, certainly in Canada, Canada is also pretty lacking in a Firebrand Atheist organization,
Yes.
and the U.S. is too now. But I think when it comes down to it, Atheist Alliance International, look, the U.S. atheist movement is still valid and still important, but it's different from what it was. The needs aren't what it was, and atheism is pretty normalized now. And it's, for all that's happening, I mean, the FFRF and AHA are doing fantastic work, important work, good work, but
a lot of that is also thanks to you, by the way.
Well,
I mean, I think you did a lot to normalize atheism with all your interviews and everything that you did on TV and on the billboards and all the work that you did. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that, Ali, because when everything went down, I felt like I lost all of the creds, for lack of a better word, of what I had done. But yeah, I think the atheist movement in America is different from what it was when I started. It's a lot better. It's a lot different. And I think it's time for me and Atheist Alliance International to look outside the U.S. I think that AHA and FFRF and SCA, Secular Coalition for America, I think for what's left is the demand for atheist activism. I think they got it covered. I don't think I can. I mean, if I come in, Atheist Alliance of America, or Atheist Alliance International could come in and we could do another convention and compete against FFRF, AHA, and AA. And MythCon, and what's the one that the students put together? The Minds Conference, and there's another one, I can't remember what it is, but there are other conventions that are happening all over the place now. So the market's different. When we used to do it, I mean, the reason rally was so big is because nobody had done it before, and it was brand new, and people needed that outlet. That's why we got 30,000 people into one place at one time. It was amazing, but I think it's just changed. So I think the answer to your question, I'm rambling a bit. I don't want to talk badly about the American Atheist movement. The American Atheist movement is still valid. They have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of validity to them, and I wish them the best. But the answer to your question is that Atheist Alliance International is going to be focusing mostly outside the U.S. Because we're needed much more there.
Can I make
we can do a lot more good there. Yeah, of course you can.
Actually, I had some to make too, but I guess what we could do is we could talk about things like that since we. But go ahead, Armin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that Atheist Republic has done effectively is that we have a large presence in many cities, right? Like we have local consulates where people get together and meet, and they do activism. And what we can do is, if you want to do conventions on an international level, we could use our Atheist Republic consulates to not only promote these conventions, to start and find volunteers for these conventions in different countries, but also to use the number, because some of our consulates are extremely active, some of them are less active, some of them are big, some of them are small. We could also use the Atheist Republic consulates in other cities to see where activism has the greatest demand, right? We could put polls in these consulates and see, for example, I can tell you, we are present in hundreds of cities, and our largest consulate is in Manila, right? And in fact, Atheist Republic has one of the largest, I think maybe the largest group, even though it's not a Filipino company. It is responsible for organization. It is responsible for the biggest group of Filipino groups. Even though it came from outside, right? So, I could tell, based on the numbers that we have, a convention in India and in Philippines, these are the places where you're going to see a lot of demand and no supply, right? that you would get a lot of people that would be very, very interested in an event, and we will be able to help market that and promote that. It could be a joint convention, if you're interested.
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
And the third place, so India, Philippines, and the third place that is not very big, but it would be very interesting, would be Israel. Right. So my pitch would be, my pitch would be atheist conventions in India, Philippines, and Israel. If you were,
I kind of would love to have an atheist convention in Israel a lot.
Yes.
I want to be there. So
that would be a lot of fun. I think that everything you just said is on the table, Armin.
Awesome.
I think let's talk about this.
Okay.
I mean, we've got a lot of planning to do. I've been in the captain's chair. Well, for lack of a better word, the captain's chair of Atheist Alliance International for about a week now, and it's been wonderful, but it's also been busy. We're doing a lot of restructuring. We're doing a lot of changes to get us ready to do some real good. But yeah. I would love to talk to you about all those things. And, I made a joke about Israel. I've never actually wanted to go to Israel, but to have an atheist event in Israel, that changes things. So that changes things. So yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
So another thing I wanted to say was, I know the focus is international, and maybe this applies internationally too. I think you're right. Atheism has been normalized. I mean, I know in just the last 10 years I've seen it. It's been amazing, what's happened in the U.S. and actually around the world. We're seeing online a lot of our listenership, which is in Muslim majority countries. I'm seeing it all over the place. I hear from people all the time. But in terms of organizing, the fact that the religious nuns, the NONES, are such a huge percentage now, like up to 1/4 or more, I think. Among millennials, it's up to 1/3 or more. How about, is there a plan to get into politics or into getting people or promoting certain candidates into political office and to sort of put positions of power, political power, where they can actually do something at a higher level?
I think that's a great idea. I think that's something that the Secular Coalition for America is doing, and I think that's something that the SCA is doing. They are the political organization. They're a 501c7, I believe, so they can do certain things. I'm not actually sure about that, but they can. They're doing lobbying, and they're doing. They're not a C3 organization, so they can promote politicians. They can promote things like that. So that is something that's really important. But like I said, that's something that they would be doing. We're going to be focusing international.
You did that personally when you saw my interview with Andrew Yang. Remember?
Which one?
The tweet, the one that he said that we need to protect atheists and stuff like. The one that on Twitter you said. I think I remember seeing. You remember that? That was a while ago.
Well, we should all do that. I mean, I don't want to take politics because I'm Atheist Alliance of International is a 501c3 organization. We do not endorse politicians, but that politician gave a great speech on the separation of church and state, and I think that our politicians should be that supportive of the separation of church and state. I don't want to make a comment on other things, but that one piece made me a bit of a Yang man because personally. Because he really supported the atheists in that statement. I thought it was great. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. Do you like how I managed to get I managed to get at least one politician? I think that was the first time I interviewed somebody running for president, and I managed to get the first candidate in history of the United States to actually come out. To come out and say that they use the word atheist and they say they support them, right? So that
was great, Ali.
And that's what on about it.
Back when I did when I was at American Atheists, we had the Atheist Voter Program, which I believe is a program they've discontinued, I believe. They didn't do anything for it in 2018, so I'm assuming that. But that's what the Atheist Voter Program was, to get people out there and talking to politicians on camera to get them to use the word atheist, to get them to say something about atheists. And you did the fucking best job ever with that video. Yeah. And you knocked it out of the park. And, you know, that was, you know, and, you know,
he's gotten actually
Yang for doing that.
I gotta say, just as we're recording this, so one day after that, I think the fourth or the fifth Democratic debate.
Fourth.
I can't remember. Fourth, yeah. So, and Andrew Yang is, you know, even though he was always thought of as a long shot for the nomination, but he's been talking about a lot of issues like automation and universal basic income, and that got some really serious discussion yesterday in the debate, as it should have been. I think a lot of people have been wanting to talk about automation and all of that. So the fact that he's having some influence and the fact that he's on record talking about the atheists is great. Yeah. So anyway, so we're going to keep on hearing your plans, Dave, about with Atheist Alliance International. I kind of want to sit down and know everything that you're doing, and but eventually I think that we're going to hear about that. But
I can't tell you how grateful I am to the atheist movement for how they've welcomed me back since Armin's podcast. I need to say that by and large, I mean, yes, there are haters out there who haven't looked at this, who haven't looked at the evidence, yada, yada, yada. But for the most part, the atheist movement has reached out its arms and pulled me up.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. I mean, when I went into your podcast, Armin, I was still a lot darker than I am today, in my brain. I was still a lot sadder. I mean, I had this tremendous depression, this awful, debilitating depression that I was just coming out of for your podcast. But after your podcast, the outreach that I've received has really cheered me. And the fact that I now have this wonderful position at Atheist Alliance International and this wonderful opportunity to save lives and to change the world. And, you know, this wonderful opportunity is just, I'm just so very grateful to the members of Atheist Alliance International, the donors of Atheist Alliance International, and of course, the board of directors who did their homework and quite a bit of it. And I also got to make a nod out to the volunteers who have joined me at Atheist Alliance International since I joined, or came with me, including the founder of Secular Woman, by the way, who has also grilled me for months and looked over all the evidence and decided that not only was I innocent, but that she wanted to join my team. And I got to say, it's so crazy warming. It's so crazy warming. It's like nourishment to a starving person. And I can't tell you how much, I can't tell everybody how much I appreciate all your support.
Yeah, and I gotta say one thing. Since you're saying this to Armin, I gotta say this too, because you know I watched that whole interview, as I said, and Armin, you weren't easy on it. You were skeptical. You countered Dave, even though there were times when I felt bad for you because you were talking about it, and I could tell that you were exhausted, and I could tell how painful it was for you when you were speaking about it.
Yeah. But
Armin, I think, really made sure that he got everything covered. The people who don't believe you, the haters, everybody, what their arguments are going to be against everything you're saying.
Yeah.
And it was pretty rough, but Armin, like, characteristically, he always does a really good job when it comes to this. So
yeah, I was
actually very proud of him. Yeah.
I think he did a really good job of separating our friendship from professionalism. He did well to challenge me, and like I said, he kind of cornered me a little bit there and there for a minute, and I don't like that very much, but that's okay. I don't like being cornered logically, but that's okay because it makes me better and I learn more and it helps me grow. but I don't like it.
But that's what, even now, you know, when you're talking about that and you're pondering, I remember that point you said you're retaining the feminist moniker. Now you're talking about second. Yeah, like it sounds like you're on a very healthy process of exploring these ideas, right?
Yeah.
And you know, there are things that you're saying that I just in terms of your ideas that I agree with. There's other things that I'm kind of disagree with, like Armin as well. And I like the fact that we're having this discussion, and I like the fact that you're figuring your way out. And it's almost like a brand new slate. You know, it is the opposite of dogma. It is actually feeling your way out, of things and just figuring. And I hope that process continues. I think it's really good to see. But anyway, we have one more topic we wanted to talk about, or maybe
this
more.
This is something that I'm very interested in, and I don't know why most people are not interested in it. But go on, Ali. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. This is your thing. You were very interested in it.
No. I mean, okay. So you said you don't like going to Israel. When I was in Israel, I was with Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptic. We were walking in the street, and I look across the street and I see these people and I'm like, Drew, Falun Dafa people. And Drew was like, what? I'm like, Falun Dafa. We need to go there. We need to record them. By the way, I have so much recording in Israel with Drew that we never release because we can't afford editors. So maybe if you guys donate to my Ideas on Bucks Patreon, I will eventually get it out. But we went there and we started recording these, and I was like telling Drew like about this cult, about the victimhood narrative that they use, about how this is a toxic cult that is growing, and they're using a lot of people, they use the hate a lot of people have for China to spread their ideology even more. And how they're, and Drew was like, I mean, I recognize them wherever I see them. They're everywhere. Just like as soon as I see like Jehovah's Witnesses stand, they look exactly the same. Like I've seen Jehovah's Witnesses in Canada, United States, Italy, Israel, everywhere I go. As soon as I see them from miles away, I recognize that they're Jehovah's. Falun Dafa is exactly like this. They have the same consistent branding. It's a crazy ideology, it's a dangerous ideology, and it's growing. And I've never seen anybody talk about them until Dave. So, Dave, why can you tell me why? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so Falun Gong is on my shit list. Falun Gong and Falun Dafa are the same thing. And so I went to China a couple times, and 3 times on my book tour, and I met a whole bunch of people, and they were really pretty broad as far as what they said to me, but they were almost unanimous in their hatred for Falun Gong. They didn't all love the Chinese government, but they all hated Falun Gong, all of them. And so the Chinese nationals, the Chinese people that I met in China, and I came back and I started studying about Falun Gong and Falun Dafa, and it's amazing what it is out there. So I appreciate you bringing it up, because nobody's talking about this racist cult, this horrible cult. When you see these people stretching in the park, when you see these people on the side of the roads, these are members of a cult. And this cult's money is brought in with the Shen Yun Orchestra, that traveling orchestra that goes around all those cities all year long. And this is a money-making cult. The people live on a compound in New York, and they have it's crazy. Okay, so they have this stretching. It's like Tai Chi, and they do their stretching. And when you just walk up and you see them, you think that's what it's about. And when you think about Shen Yun, you think about, it's Chinese acrobatics and Chinese music, and it must be really nice. It's an insidious freaking cult. When you join this cult, it's run by a man named Li Hongqi. Now, Li Hongqi has supernatural powers, which he gets from Falun Gong. Yes. Okay. He has supernatural powers. He can heal and he can levitate. He never does it on camera, of course, but he can heal and he can levitate. And if you go through the Falun Gong process and you give him lots of money and you listen to all of his tapes, which include a lot of racism, because I'll tell you why in a bit. he will take your money, and then he will. Now I'm going to speak very literally now, because I want everybody to know that I'm speaking completely literally. Falun Gong, if you get to the right level, Li Hongqi will place an undetectable interdimensional wheel inside your abdomen. This undetectable interdimensional wheel will give you the magic powers like Li Hongqi has to levitate and cure people. Now, he has practitioners who have these invisible interdimensional wheels in their stomach, and they go around healing Falun Gong practitioners who don't get their treatments because Falun Gong is giving them to them, and so they die. Okay, there's a lot of people who have died because of this, and Falun Gong is about to come out with a movie. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows this. Don't go see it because it's gonna, unless you see it for free. I think it's called the Project Origin, but it entails this the idea that you can do Falun Gong and the hero in the movie gets cured of cancer because of Falun Gong. Okay,
where's this movie coming out? Like this is
it's in the mini circuit right now. I don't know when it's going to come out. I have a friend who saw it, and she took a lot of notes, and she just told me all about it.
Actual release is not just something on a website. This is an actual It's
an actual movie. Yes, it's an actual Falun Gong movie, and
like so it might be on Netflix, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Netflix or YouTube probably. One of the two. I don't know. Right now, it's in select theaters. I think it's called Project Origin or something like that. But it entails, these people using Falun Gong to be cured of cancer. And it's just Tai Chi and magic interdimensional wheels. Now, let me tell you more about the interdimensional wheels. Okay, so it's very, very important that you understand how wonderful it is that we are here with Li Hongqi on our planet, because the aliens are coming. The aliens are coming from outer space. This is Falun Gong. This is people stretching in the park. The aliens are coming from outer space, and they're coming to take over the world. The only way they're going to stop it is because of Li Hongqi's magic powers. And that's only a possibility because there's so much mixed race breeding on this planet that we are a weaker species. Of course, there are five races of human, the dirtiest and lowest being the brownest people, the darkest people. If you have dark skin, the darker your skin, the more polluted you are. But still, you're more strong than those horrible, weak, mixed race people. The aliens who are coming, I'm not making this shit up. The aliens who are coming like mixed race people because they're weak and easy to conquer. And hopefully...
The alien part is like Scientology, and the dark-skinned curse part is kind of like Mormonism.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of like he took a little piece from here and a little piece from here, almost like it's completely made up and stolen from other religions. They even live on a compound. And so the Shen Yun Orchestra is they travel around, and this is an arm of the Falun Gong cult. And they have this show that goes around, and you get into it. First of all, it's $200 for the cheap seats. I did this. It was $200 for the upper balcony seats, and they come out and they play the music, and they're skilled actors. They're skilled, not actors. They're skilled performers.
Dancers.
They're dancers, and
I've seen it in Vancouver.
Yeah, they dance and they play music, and that's okay. It's nothing spectacular, but it's nice. But in between dance moves, they preach anti-China propaganda at you. And they have this story. They have these skits, and it's all about the Chinese government is bad and Falun Gong is good. Falun Gong is good is saying over and over again, by the way, Falun Gong is good. And one of the stories is, I'll tell you a brief story. I told you about this in your podcast, Armin, but I'll mention it again here because it sticks with me. There's a couple who want to practice Falun Gong in the park, and they're just harmless, and they're stretching in the park. Who would have a problem with a young couple stretching in the park, but the Chinese government does. And the Chinese government says, you cannot come here and stretch in the park. And the couple says, no, I oppose you, Chinese government. We will stretch in the park. And then the Chinese government gouges out the guy's eyes and throws him in prison. Right. And then, yeah, I know, Ali. I know. The look on your face is great. They gouge out his eyes and throw him in prison. And then, guess what happens in prison? He uses Falun Gong to bring his eyes back and get free. And then they practice Falun Gong in the park, and the Chinese government can't hurt them because they're powerful with their Falun Gong.
Okay, so one question here. So there are stories. So this is one of those. I guess this is a bit of a tough one because Falun Gong, obviously, their beliefs are absolutely ridiculous. They're bad shit.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, and they kill people. I mean, obviously, things like this, right?
People die, yeah, lots of them.
But is it also true? I mean, the Chinese government does torture them and does harvest their organs and all of that. So
that's
they exaggerate the
right?
numbers.
Well, and they also exaggerate the intent. I think.
Well, clearly, I mean, the gouging out the eyes, that story you're telling. But
they do they do torture them.
Yeah, they do, and the Chinese government is not a democratic government. Okay, it's a communistic, totalitarian government. You don't fuck with the Chinese government. The reason the Chinese government fucks with Falun Gong because Falun Gong fucks with the Chinese government. There's lots of religion in China now. You can be religious in China now, but you can't mess with the Chinese government or they'll fuck with you. You can pray.
We're not excusing that though. Like we're not excusing that.
Right.
I mean,
no, nobody's excusing that. And so let me clarify what I want to say about that. I actually have done a little bit of research on this. What I have found is that China is probably involved in organ harvesting. It is probably not at all centered around Falun Gong. They're doing it a lot of places.
Well, they're doing it to a lot of people. The Muslims,
but they are very sensitive about Falun Gong, though. Like they do heavily target them as well. Like they do that to many people, but they do.
It's not outside the norm. Okay,
it's not outside the norm, but Falun Gong is one of their main targets.
Well, because they're expressly targeting the Chinese government, so there's a.
So we're like when Dave is explaining it, he's not excusing it. Explaining something why China is doing it.
Excusing anything. I am not excusing anything. I am not excusing taking somebody's organs because they are of a religious order. That's horrible, and I hope the Chinese government stops that shit right now.
You'd be surprised, Dave, when you explain why. If I explain why, like ISIS is doing something or why Chinese government is doing something, a lot of people see that as an excuse, and they're like, "No, we're explaining it. We're not excusing it." But go on.
Yeah. Grow up, folks. We're explaining things. I'm not excusing organ harvesting of innocent people. But what I have found is that the Chinese government is probably doing that, and they're probably not signaling. They're definitely not singling out Falun Gong. They may hate Falun Gong a lot because Falun Gong protests against the Chinese government a lot, and also, again, not minimizing it. The Chinese government is not the only Asian government that does this. Rumor has it around North Korea as well, and so there's. I
didn't know Falun Gong was in North Korea.
No. I'm talking about organ harvesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not about. So Falun Gong says it's all about us. It's us versus the Chinese government. That's bullshit. Right. The Chinese government is going to fuck with you if you're going to fuck with it. If you don't follow their rules, they're going to mess with you, and they're not going to be nice. And so, I
kind of think my hypothesis is that the people that are promoting Falun Gong want the Chinese government to torture them like this because that's their main marketing. The main marketing is like, hey, come pay attention to us. And the pictures, it used to be the marketing was like, hey, look at our stretches. You could heal yourself, blah, blah, blah. That was the main marketing. Come to our park, do these positions. You tap into some unseen energy. But now 90% of the time, when you open their pamphlets, it's just people being tortured, right? And I think they recognize that that's a more powerful marketing tool. And I sense, just like I experienced with other cults and other religions, they kind of want to, tap into that. And I think like they probably use the people that are being tortured as a way to grow. I think they see that as they might want that to continue by China.
It's a horrible idea, but yeah, maybe. I mean, it does. It certainly is something that they're pushing a lot. It certainly is not something that I would put past them. I don't think. I think I think when they tap into this. Well, I think they might be tapping into woke culture now that I think of it, because it's all about intersectionality. It's all about the super liberals who are seeing the who are seeing this, and they want to be against the Chinese government. So this is the kind of their market, I guess. I hadn't really thought about that, but I think that may be true. But yeah, would the Falun Gong certainly? I don't like to use the word celebrates, but it certainly does trumpet the horrible treatment that they get from the Chinese government in the Shen Yun show. Right. And they use it to raise money. They raise money for Li Hongqi so that he can live on his, they have this big compound, and they have this big Chinese, it's like a little Chinese city in Nowheresville,
Dave,
New York.
I was a teenager when I first saw them, and I was like an atheist teenager in Iran. And I saw them in the park. It was in Tehran. It was in a park in Tehran. And I noticed they were doing a whole bunch of people were stretching and everything. They're Iranians. They weren't even Chinese, right? And they have these books in the corner, and they were doing some very cool things. And I went, and I was like, I was going through a phase of experimenting and trying to, because this is after I was very skeptical about Islam and stuff. And I went and picked up their book, and they were talking about these positions, and there were like pictures of wheels on their chests, and the forces that you could tap into, and it was very interesting to me. And I even though I didn't believe in any of it, I found it very interesting. But the interesting thing is that the second thing I noticed about them was also in Iran, because in Iran, a lot of cartoons from Japan or China or Korea gets translated into Persian, because we as kids we watch Far East, because they don't like to translate American cartoons. So most of the cartoons that we watch was a translation of Far East, Asian cartoons, right? And I remember watching a cartoon. I don't know what cartoon it was, but it was a Chinese cartoon, and it was these characters in the cartoon that were making weird shapes to tap into some energies. And the whole message of that episode was how wrong and stupid this is. And as I recognized that, they're talking about Falun Dafa. Like, I realized that this was a Chinese cartoon, but it was a very famous cartoon, but one of their episodes was targeting Falun Dafa. Mm-hmm. So, but this was before they were, actually, no, even then they had pictures of Chinese people being tortured. This was many years ago. They have three promotional methods. One is hey, come in, like tap into energy, blah, 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 come stretch with us, come do these positions. The second method is the victimhood narrative, like, oh, poor us, China is doing this to us. And the third method, I think that's the most recent one, and I saw this in Vancouver, is the orchestra one. I think that's a more recent. I think I haven't seen that until I saw it in Vancouver many, many years later.
Shen Yun.
Yeah. And it has a lot of bad reviews in Vancouver. And I looked at the bad reviews. It had nothing to do with the fact that they're Falun Dafa. A lot of people went in because I thought they saw they're everywhere. They're promoting the show, right? And I think a lot of people went in there, and I looked at the bad reviews. Most people just didn't like the show, and I'm wondering if the bad reviews are actually just Chinese bots or something, or were they actually, I don't know.
I didn't like the show.
You didn't?
I mean, okay. No, I didn't like the show. Look, there was some music that was enjoyable, and some of the dance moves were enjoyable to watch, but zero of it was spectacular. And in between all of the stuff was just this preaching, and this ask for money. That they want money, and they're preaching about how downtrodden they are and how the Chinese government is so bad. It's a lot of anti-China propaganda, and I didn't go in to listen to that. I went in to watch. No, I didn't know what to expect, but I certainly didn't walk in and expected to be preached at. And I've heard a few people have told me, you know what, I did this whole video on Falun Gong a little while ago on my channel, and the people that have contacted me and put on comments are like, yeah, I went to see this, and the preaching is just, you know, untenable. It's unbearable.
Right.
It's not a I wouldn't say unbearable, but it's tedious as fuck.
And the promotion of it really sets up your expectations. So that's why most people are disappointed. It's like it's promoted as this very beautiful cultural celebration of these people.
Yeah.
And I'm also predicting, and I don't know if this is going to be true or not, but my prediction is that they're really going to look into tapping into this new hate people have for the Chinese government right now because of all the Hong Kong thing, and also all the censorship of these Western companies that China is doing. A lot of people are, because of South Park and because of all these NBA and stuff, a lot of people are now, younger people also discovering that is cool to be anti-Chinese government. And I think like they're going to try to tap into that. Like, well, you know, they're going to come in and like, well, you know, who has been against China all this time? That's us. Like, we have been fighting. Like, why? Like, I think they might be jealous of all the attention that the Hong Kong protesters are getting, because they're like, they're going to be like, you know, we're also anti-Chinese resistance movements. And I think they're going to try to use all this momentum and all the attention that this is getting right now to bring some attention to their cult. So it's good that you're,
I think it's a pretty good prediction, frankly. I think it's a pretty good prediction. And yeah, I think it's good that we talk about it. I appreciate you talking to me about it. I think, you know, people need to. All right, so here's what I think should happen. The cheap seats in Falun Gong are $200 a seat. If you for Shen Yun, if you went to the Shen Yun Orchestra and you got the $200 seats, you'd be disappointed, and you'd be like, "Oh man, I wish I spent that $200 somewhere else." And so instead, you should take that $200 per person that you would bring to Shen Yun and go to atheistalliance.org.
I saw that. I saw that coming.
And donate to Atheist Alliance so that we can help. I mean, because we're going to be highlighting this as well. And go to atheistalliance.org and join up as a member and donate to us, because we've got to build now. This is not a company with a war chest. It's a company that needs a war chest. So please donate to Atheist Alliance International, and save yourself the money from going to a Falun Gong show or a Shen Yun show.
And right after you give $200, please do spend $1 a month to become a Secular Jihadist patron. Link in the description. Just after you're finished with just $1 a month, we will appreciate that as well.
I think it's a fantastic idea. And, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. All right.
Oh man. So Dave, I think we're kind of running. The time just whizzed past. I mean, it was just fantastic.
It was really an hour and a half, man. Was that 2 hours?
It was close to
1
2
hour
hours,
and
actually.
46 minutes.
Wow, you guys talk too much.
We do, don't we? Yeah. We just
I really appreciate you having me on. I got to tell you, you know, Armin, you really helped my life when you put me on that podcast. You worked past an alleged blackball, and I really appreciate it. And you know, Ali, thank you so much for having me on this show, and for and I'm really sorry that you are also the victims of a false allegation. I think that sucks. And I'm really unhappy with the fact that people can do that. Now, this is something I just want to make sure, you know, I have a lot of anger about what happened. And I just want to make sure that I say that I think that the two women who made false allegations against me are probably not mustache twirling evil villains from a Shakespearean novel. They're probably victims of some indoctrination that says that doing this is a good thing, and that's a part of woke culture. And if we allow woke culture to be a religion, then we have to put the people who did that in the same category as the people who do other crimes in the name of their religion, including, 9/11 and things like that. That's all a matter of doing evil in the name of good. So I don't want to. I don't want people
on a much
to think,
smaller scale, though.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
No, on the same scale, Armin.
David, I'm not saying this for you. I'm saying this for the my expectation of people that watch and listen to these videos is very low. That's why I know you didn't mean that, but based on the comments that we get, I have to add these because
I appreciate you saying that. No, I'm not saying that what happened to me is as bad as 9/11. What I'm saying is that it's
I know you're not.
Function
I know you're not. But you'd be
scale.
surprised.
But it's the same thing. Bad people, good people doing bad. It needs religion, and we've seen that a few times in this episode. And I think that's what might have happened. I choose to believe that the women are victims of the shit in their brains, and not evil people who were just out to mess with me. And I want to say again, thank you to the board of directors of American Atheists for doing their due diligence. They did a lot, and realizing, along with the people who came with me, what had happened. And I want to thank the atheist community for coming back, and it means a lot. Yeah, it means a lot.
I want to also let you know in closing,
it's a shame that they abandoned you in the first place. But go on. Yeah.
I had
I believed lies in my life too, Armin.
Right. Yeah.
So I got to be, I believed lies. We'll all believe lies again. And when they found out and they saw they came back, and it meant a lot to me. So thank you to everybody who did that.
And it's a tough atmosphere. There was a lot going on. There was kind of a reckoning that was happening after a very, very long time for very legitimate reasons. And it is, people do get caught up in the moment, and sometimes they lose. And the thing is, as you said, that because you came out and you spoke out about it, I'll tell you one thing, that, because we were having that discussion about feminism earlier, and you said that, you're considering giving up the moniker. There are lots and lots and lots of women I know they who clearly believe allegations when it comes to other people who are suspected, like, R. Kelly and everything like that. But they know of your record. They know of what you've done. They know how sincere you are. You're very, very upfront, even about your flaws. In your whole statement that you talk about all of the mistakes and the moral failings on your part that you do.
There were several.
Yeah, so you've been pretty clear about it, and there are actually a lot of women who do believe you, and I think you're probably seeing them coming back. I think they always kind of suspected. They didn't think of you as that way. I know of somebody personally, the only reason I'm not going to mention her name is because she probably doesn't want to. I don't want to make it public. I don't know if she wants it known or whatever. I'm sure she'd be fine with it. But she met you at TAM, I think, a long time. Remember the amazing that conference, TAM? Yeah, for the amazing meeting many years ago. And she said that you were just there were a lot of people who were kind of getting drunk and misbehaving, but I think it was the one where you were there and Penn Jillette was there, and she found both of you to be the most decent people and very respectful towards all the women there, and you have a record on this. So I wouldn't, and this is something you'll figure out on your own, and I know that you're going to do a lot of interviews and all this stuff, but I wouldn't give up on that so soon. There are a lot of people out there, I think, that the ones who are very vocal, as Armin was saying, are a minority. So, loud
minority.
Believe me, they're a very loud minority. They're a very boisterous and annoying online minority. It doesn't take a lot of investment to go in and tweet about something. Yeah, as we know. So I just kind of I'm trying to avoid saying the words "have faith," but there is good out there, and you're gonna see it more as time comes out. But the fact
I'm seeing so much of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So hold on to all the stuff that made you who you are today. You weren't wrong. If you lose any of that, then in a way they kind of win, right? You don't want to do that either. So.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I've got a lot more stuff to do, and Atheist Alliance International and I are going to do tremendous amount of good together, and I'm really looking forward to it. I am
Yeah,
so
so am
looking
I.
forward to doing good for a living again. It's going to
Yeah.
be fantastic. Thank
That's
you so
amazing.
much, both of you, for having me on.
No, yeah,
Thank you so
thanks a lot, everybody. Atheist Alliance International. The statement from Gail Miller is in the description. Armin's interview is in the description. David's previous appearance on Secular Jihadists is also in the description. And so is firebrandforgood.com.
Thank
I mean,
you.
that's where you can
Thank
go,
you.
and you can find out about everything that Dave is up to.
And atheistalliance.org, please.
atheistalliance.org.
Yes.
So y'all know it. Well, Dave, stay on just for a second, but thank you to everybody who listened, and we're going to see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
See you soon.
The Secular Jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadist.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air, and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.